Yes, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for the invitation here to Verona. It's very interesting for me as a German to see that there is such a big and substantial conference ongoing in Italy, because certainly we tend to have the national perspective, and I understand certainly as somebody coming from Germany that Germany is very active with regards to Russia. But now I also have the evidence that the Italians do a lot of things with regards to the Russian-EU relations. Perhaps I say 2 or 3 words about our organization. We are the main representation of foreign investors in Russia. We have a number also of Italian companies as members, such as Banca Intesa, for example, as Eni, Enel, Pirelli, Prysmian, and lots of others. And certainly Italian companies are highly welcome to participate in the work of our organization. We are the main representation of foreign investors on the background, certainly, that Russia, in spite of all the problems, still has nearly 50% of its foreign trade with the European Union, and that, let's say, the large bulk of foreign direct investments into Russia come from European sources. And I will now, let's say, in my short intervention come to back to the starting point about, let's say, innovation infrastructure, not so much talking about infrastructure projects, but about infrastructure which enhances innovation with regards to Russia, but perhaps also at the end in the Eurasian Economic Union as a whole. We have to say that certainly with regards to the activities of European companies in Russia, they're partially or to a high degree, if we talk about pharmaceuticals, if we talk about the automotive sector, if we talk about machine building as example, companies which have a high degree of R&D activities globally. And I also have to say that since the end of the last decade, let's say step by step, in spite of all the problems which are there, certainly the European companies have increased their work with regards to research and development also in Russia. But I think that lots of things have to be done also in the future with regards to this. I mean, there are, let's say, projects ongoing, for example, in the area of engineering, energy, computer and software development, biomedical technologies, and certainly also the development of other high-tech products and also services. We are very actively cooperating, and our members are very actively cooperating, especially with the Skolkovo Innovation Center, which has been started at the end of last decade from the side of the Russian government in order to have, let's say, a very visible project where R&D activities are concentrated from Russian but also from foreign companies, and such companies like, for example, General Electric, like Nokia Networks, SAP, like Schneider Electric, Siemens, Alstom, in order to mention some of them, have started activities of research and development, especially based in the Skolkovo Innovation Project. And I assume that also in the future this is going to continue and will also increase in the next few years. Certainly you have such new initiatives which have been started by the Russian government with regards to say discussing innovations, like the Open Innovations Forum, like the Forum Innoprom, which are done on an annual basis, where you have the trial from the side of the Russian authorities to bring together companies, but also researchers, to bring together also research institutes and other people active in the field of innovation in order to form an atmosphere, form an environment for bringing forward the innovation drive in Russia, which is, as I said, the aim of the Russian government for several years already. And if we talk, for example, about concrete projects, I can name one which has been done in the past few years, because the French company Alstom has created with their Russian partners in the past few years a new train. This was, let's say, something which has been done with the perspective of the Olympic Games of 2014. And this has been, let's say, a good project where innovation has been created in the cooperation between Russian and a European company, and which has then also, let's say, come into being practically. We also cooperate, for example, with such initiatives as the Technopolis in Moscow, where you have, since several years now, already an ongoing process of localizing innovative production and also, let's say, with an attempt to do research and development. This is an ongoing process, and this is also done, for example, with European technology centers, for example, like the French example here again, Sophia Antipolis in the south of France, which is very active in trying to establish cooperation between European companies, European research institutes, and their Russian counterparts. And this, from my point of view, is an important point also, because you can see that here things are ongoing in spite of all discussion around sanctions and in spite of all the political problems which are there and which certainly we also want to see solved and the sanctions being ended. But I want also to mention here that in spite of all these problems, the programs which have been started by the European Union already several years ago, before the political situation became more tense, in the field of research and development have been continued. For example, a EU Commissioner, Mrs. Jigan Rorin-Quinn, was in Moscow in 2013. Then this was the start of the common Russian-European Year of Science, which was done in 2014 in spite of all the political tension which was there. And also money has been invested from the European side on a rather large scale of several dozens of million euros in cooperation between Russian and European research institutes in order to move on with regards to research and development. And here I can name the two projects which are very important here. First is Horizon 2020, which obviously is going till the year 2020, and here Russia is one of the partner countries of the European Union, and it continues to be a partner. And the seventh framework program for research and development cooperation, where also Russia is an important project partner for the European Union. Generally speaking, I think that lots has been done with regards to moving forward on the field of cooperation between companies and research institutes in Russia. We, for example, have one of the member companies who are dealing, let's say, with one of the southern Russian universities with regards to developing new technologies, biotechnologies in the end, in the field of agriculture. And but lots of things still can be done. And here certainly, from our point of view, also plays a role not only, let's say, the hardware in infrastructure, but also, let's say, the software. And in spite of things having been improved in Russia with regards to the IPR question in the past few years, we saw a reform of the patent system, we saw a reform of the civil code, especially with regards to IP questions. Certainly things can still be improved. If we talk, for example, about the whole discussion of testing new pharmaceuticals in Russia and the data which is related to it, this is one of the major problems, for example, which our companies, Moima companies in the pharmaceutical sector encounter till today. Things can be improved. Also, let's say a question which is of major importance for us is the question of gray imports, of the question of counterfactual goods, which is still a problem in Russia in some parts of the economy, although certain things have been done in the past few years to the more positive side. When I make, let's say, some final remarks on the Eurasian Economic Union, because we are here on an Eurasian forum, the Eurasian Economic Union certainly is a new structure, as you most probably all know, and it only covers certain areas of cooperation. And we have analyzed, especially for this forum, again, the contract, the treaty between the participants of the Eurasian Economic Union with regards to scientific cooperation. And if I may say that, I think that here still a lot of things can be done, because there is some mentioning of research and development cooperation between the member states of the Eurasian Economic Union. But from our point of view, this is not enough, and here the legal basis has to be broadened in order to advance in the area of research and development in the Eurasian Economic Union. And certainly the Eurasian Economic Union, and here Russia is obviously the leading partner, has to let's say, advance in the next future. And certainly also if we talk about the general infrastructure with regards to the cooperation between companies, between universities, research institutes, be it independent or of the Academy of Science in Russia, or also the other companies, if you look into the number of patents which are registered in the Eurasian Economic Union in Russia, certainly a lot of things need to be done and can be done. But I also have to say, let's say, ending on a positive note, that certainly since the discussion on innovation has been started in the Russian Federation at the end of the last decade, lots of things have been established, and I think there's also lots of opportunities which can be taken from the side of the Russian, but also from the side of the European partners. Thank you very much for your attention.